Yeah, not
How's
too
the little one?
Oh, not great. We're just chasing her, trying to chase her around to try and get her out of the house. She's
Sounds good.
right. So it's only us. I will inform you when it's anybody else, but we are
Yeah, no drama.
that's for right now. Even though all these sessions are recorded, so we can go back and
Oh, were
hear.
they?
Oh yeah, well I think so. I mean, they seem to be sort of they seem to be on there.
Oh,
So,
nice. I wonder what's on there.
well, I don't think anything too damning for us.
No, don't think so. Probably not.
Um, but how did that Euro trade go? That was a cracker.
Oh, it hasn't finished yet. Still going.
Oh, nice, mate. Nice,
That,
yeah.
yeah, I think that can go a fair way. Actually, I think.
So, um, yeah, maybe we should talk about this. I think we should talk about how because I've been thinking about we were talking about yesterday with the hedging. um, and interestingly, there's obviously a way you can do it even on the short terms, because you see, it's a bit different. It's not actually different for you because the bar that you're entering is quite a key bar, isn't it? Because it's the breakout. So if it goes in the other direction, does that not mean that it's probably more likely to continue the trend?
Yes, it is. It does mean that.
I've got a visitor. You going, baby? Give me a kiss. Daddy loves you, darling. I know. I'll see you at lunchtime, okay?
What's she got? She got the cold, has she?
She's got a really bad cough, but she was off with me
Poor thing.
yesterday, and we had a bit of a, it was kind of adventure day yesterday. So she wants to stay at home. She doesn't want to go. She's going to nursery today because I've got to work. I'm so far behind. Um, so yeah, she's got to go today, and she doesn't want to go. She wants to stay here and play.
She's a bit like me.
And me as it goes. I mean, if I had my way, she'd definitely be staying.
Yeah, fair play.
um, yeah. So, well, in fact, have we got anything to look at this morning for you?
Oh, look, I have. I've got a massive thing to look at,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's cable. You want to have
All
a look
right.
straight away?
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be really cool. Because
All
cable's
right.
in the news today.
Yes, absolutely, and that's very much part of it. So I'll take the screen, and believe it or not, I'm actually in the market long cable.
Oh, really? Okay. I could see that in a way.
Now, in a way, I think it's a big. I don't know. It took me a long time to talk myself into it, but I have talked myself into it on the back of a couple of things. And in where are we? About 23 minutes to 8, 22 minutes to 8. We've got an hour and 50 minutes roughly before this CPI figure.
Yeah.
Now, this CPI figure is very, very, very interesting because when I had a look at this, I thought, okay, previous was 2.4, forecast 2.3. Are they talking about year on year, which is what this is?
Yeah.
Or are they talking month on month? Because I think 2.4, if I go into the detail, 2.4 was the November figure, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, hang on a minute. Are they talking last month or are they talking last year? So I went into the graph, and there I saw that 2017 started with a whimper down at 1.4, built up to about 3 from memory. Yeah, around about 3 in November, December. But I then thought I might actually check that figure, and the average actually was around about the 2.4 mark. So the
Yeah.
2.4 is right. But, and here's where I'm going to ask you a question. Is that how they actually measure it? Is it the mean of the 12 months? If they're
Well,
talking about a yearly figure?
this is that's a really good question, because when you say year on year, then that's what that would suggest, wouldn't it? I mean, it suggests
Well,
that
for
the
me,
mean,
it would. Most
yeah.
certainly, it would. So if I
But
then,
then,
yeah,
but
go.
that would be a very difficult thing to forecast, because the forecast, it's not. I mean, that's not a difficult thing to forecast. Sorry, that would be a really easy thing to forecast, because you're basically sort of like going to do a general average of the last 11 months, and assume that the next one's going to be sort of in a specific area, because the graph doesn't go drastically from one month to another, and it'd be a very easy easy thing to forecast, wouldn't it?
Well, so you can imagine what I did next. I then took an average of 2018, right? And I'm going with their forecast of 2.3, which is again where I come back to the forecast at 2.3.
Yeah.
And I still think they're talking month on month. So they're forecasting 2.3 for, what is it, November, I suppose? Or is it the December figure? Hang on. No, it is actually the December figure. So they're forecasting 2.3. Now, if
Yeah.
I actually put 2.3 into the equation and then average or get the mean for 2018, it actually comes out at 2.6, bang on 2.6. So if I then go back to here and they're forecasting 2.3, the actual number we pretty much know, if that hits 2.3, is going to be 2.6.
Yeah.
Now, if that's the case, and everyone's looking at 2.3 thinking, okay, it's going to be a miss to the downside, and it misses to the high side by 0.3,
Yeah.
that's going to be pretty damn good for the pound.
Okay, so so this is because, as you say, last December was 2.9 in for the CPI, right?
Yep, 2.9 or 3, one or the other. I can't
Yeah.
remember which
So the
exactly.
previous 2.4,
3, actually.
it was 2.3.
The previous December figure
Yeah.
was 3.
Was 3. Right. Okay.
Yeah, but the previous year,
Yeah.
the 2017, 2.4 is exactly right.
Okay. So it is the average then.
Well, is it?
Well,
Because confusingly,
yeah.
last month, which was November,
Yeah.
was also 2.4. So we don't know whether
Ah,
they're actually talking about November or last year. And that's
understood.
so
Understood.
it's very easy to say they've got this wrong, but maybe they haven't.
Did
But
you do a calculation of the mean? You did, because what that would suggest then to me is that if we did a calculation from November to November, it would be 2.4. So the previous was 2.4. So what they're saying to me, so that would mean that they're suggesting that the extra month that is being added is going to lower the inflation. Because actually it does become month over month in some respects, because for the mean to get lower, that means that the most recent number must be lower.
and it probably will be.
And it
But
probably will be.
and if it's 2.3,
Yeah.
then the mean for 2018 is actually 2.6.
Yes.
So I factored in 2.3 for December.
Yeah.
And if that's correct, the year on year will be 2.6 versus 2.4. If my
Yeah.
calculations are correct, which they
I see
would
what you're
be.
saying. I see what you're saying. So the actual number for this month probably can't be 2.3, because for it to diminish the 2.6, yeah, I see it quite is a bit confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Let me go back to the graph, and I think it's far easier to tell off the graph. So let me get rid of this crosshair. How do I do that? Or do I? Bugger. Go away. Click. No. All right. So for 2017, the mean was in fact 2.4.
Okay, have you read the derived VIA? So the derived VIA says the average price of various goods and services are sampled and then compared to a sampling done a year earlier.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, that would suggest that the last December, doesn't it?
Well, maybe. But last December was 3, as I said.
Yeah, it was. I see that.
There's last December there. It was, well, actually, it was 2.9. November was 3.
Yeah.
This is December here. So that's 2.9.
Yeah, so it is the month. It is the previous month that they're talking about, isn't it? Yeah.
So yes, I'm a little bit confused, but I'm also encouraged because I think they've made a mistake here and said that, well, really, we're talking about last month instead of what we should be talking about, which is last year. So the number in my book, factoring in 2.3 for December, should actually be 2.6.
Yeah.
2.6. It's half the reason I'm long pound at the moment.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, why not?
It's a very long way around saying I'm long the pound for that reason, but that is it's the main reason I'm long, because I think this number is going to be put up at 2.6, and if that's the case, then the pound should appreciate.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know, and that's the thing. This is more a logic equation than it is. I actually know what they're going to put there. So logically, I'm going to see 2.6 go up there in an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Well, you're about to get triggered in, right? Is that the trade behind this? Behind the?
No, that's the second take profit level.
Oh, nice. On the euro.
On the euro.
On the euro. So is that all out?
No. That's 2/3 out.
Okay.
At that point, and I'm very, very tempted just to take it now, because we are at a resistance level and we're 1 pip away.
Lovely trade, mate. Lovely trade. And the thing is, you got CPO. No, you got Fed tomorrow, haven't we? So
yeah, I've still got my stop relatively wide down here. I've got my stop down here, and I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah.
And if we get the right number tomorrow, well, overnight, then this could be good.
Very good, mate. So your thinking with the euro was was simply it was a technical trade.
Yeah, very much so. What we had, we're trading it on the 4-hour chart.
Yeah.
And what we had was big bullish engulfing bar. We've had a massive double bottom here as well. The bullish engulfing bar came next, and I was looking, as I said yesterday, for a higher low, and I thought I had to get into this before I got that higher low, because I really wasn't sure we're going to get it, and that's exactly how it's panned out, actually. And the reason was we've broken the pivots, the weekly pivot and the monthly pivot.
Yeah.
And with this bar, we came back and retested both of them. And that's just a nice slingshot setup anyway. It's a candle pattern that I like to trade.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I just had to place an entry.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very good trade. Like that one a lot, because we were talking yesterday about the fact that the pivots were in a bearish formation, but as you rightly pointed out, as they closed in together, actually that could indicate a change of direction.
Yeah, look, it was just one of those things where your mind's eye takes over, you know, and you actually know the chart. You've seen the chart 100 times before, and you're fully expecting it to do exactly what it did. So, and that's why I wasn't prepared to wait for the even the daily pivot test, you know.
Yeah,
and that's very unusual for me, but I could see what was going to happen.
Well, so we got a long on the pound. Have we talked about the setup on that we're after?
Well, there's no great setup, but it is there, and we're just hanging around entry here at the moment. The setup, I took was actually a longer term thing. This channel that I've identified here was broken and fell away and retested with this bar. So it's a very similar scenario to the euro in that regard. So we've had the break, we've had a rejection actually of going back into this range. This range, of course, is very pronounced, and we've been there since July. So my thought process was that this big bullish engulfing bar here had to give us an opportunity to get back into this range. And then we've had not the best higher low, because I like to see that it happens slower. I'd like to have seen the low come in around about here somewhere. I think, as I said, when I took the trade in the show this morning. And then I had a look at that CPI number, and as soon as I saw that, and in my mind, I'm thinking, there's a mistake here. Forex Factory's got this wrong. And if I'm right and they're wrong, then the pound's here today, if that's the case.
Yeah.
And that's the basis of the trade, really. Yes, there's a setup there technically as well, but it's really that figure that I really don't know. I have no authority to say I'm right or wrong on that, but logic is telling me that I'm right, and if I'm right, then happy days.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, I'm playing the break and retest of the top of this channel. That's the basis of the technical basis of the trade.
Right. I get it. Okay.
So we traded this bar here. And again, I've got my stops underneath the weekly pivot. I'm using very wide stops at the moment, and I think that's quite a reasonable theory to adopt, if you like, or practice to adopt.
Is that a 4-hour chart there you got?
Yep, that's a 4-hour chart.
I got it. Okay.
So I'm finding the 4-hour charts, relatively kind at the moment. They're giving us pretty good indicators as to what may happen. And it's always cause and effect with these charts for me. And the cause is, okay, if price is willing to go back after having shown its hand as a bear bar, if it's willing to come back and challenge that, then it's probably willing to go higher.
Now, interestingly,
buyers here in the first place.
I don't know whether this is relevant or not, but let me just show you what I see with the pound on the 4-hour, and you can tell me that it's not relevant or it is relevant.
Sure.
But when I see a channel on this particular chart, what I see is this upper line here, because we're looking for our 3 touches, right? Obviously, the starting here, second one, third one.
Yep.
Which is pretty clean, and that would lead me to this high effectively. What when you see that, does that kind of change your perspective, or does that make you have you kind of already kind of looked at that already?
Yeah, look, I have, and if you have a look on my charts, where my take profit level is, can you see that?
Just coming back to you now. Okay, so I'm not looking at your charts right. Okay, yeah. Your take profit level would be that area.
Yeah, it's exactly before that level.
I see. I'm with you, because I was looking at that as your entry, so that would be your take profit. Perfect.
Yeah, that's the take profit. The entry is down here, where that green arrow is.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
As soon as that high was taken out, that's where I get into the market.
I see. So you're actually in this trade.
The open of that. Yeah, I'm in it now. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay.
So looking for a buying spree, which I think can come in.
That's great, mate. Well, we've I mean, the slingshot, or specifically you've had a great run recently, just managing to find some really good trades. Let's have a quick chat about the FTSE while I'm here. Unless you got anything else, Aussie, or anything else pending?
Yeah, I'm. You'll be surprised to learn that I'm keen to get long the Aussies too.
Oh, yeah.
But and there is a big but. I've really got to time this right, and I missed it This was the entry here, but really, really tough to take that as a long for me at that point in time. But that's the one. I've missed it, and I'm a little bit peeved about that. But if I get a second opportunity, I'm hoping it's going to be here at this level. But my issue now is the two levels that I flagged as buy zones, which was this one here and this one here. Well, I've missed the first one. This is it here. This is the second one. So I'm hoping to get a retest of that level. And I've said all along that if this level goes, so if there's a close below this level, I'm no longer a bull. I'm a bear.
Yeah.
But whilst ever we're using this level of support, I'm still keen for this to go long. And yeah, look, I'm the only person on the planet, I'm sure, that's of that opinion. That suits me.
I think what's interesting is the fact that you are long euro, looking to go, you're in long pound, and now you're looking to go long Aussie. So you're pretty bearish the dollar.
It kind of suggests I'm bearish the dollar, doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Look, I don't think that's for any reason other than it's due. I think the dollar is due to weaken. If the Fed says no tonight or overnight to a rate increase, that's going to increase the probability of the dollar tanking, and I really think that's on the cards. Oh, look, I'm a long-term bear, the dollar, and the reason is, they've just been printing money for that long. At some stage, the world's going to say stop. And, I don't know whether that's soon or whether it's later. But, I've been reading some interesting things lately. And it's the new Bitcoin, if you like, and the new blockchain with a twist. Look, I don't know too much about it right now. So I'm not going to go into diatribe about it. But I think there's moves afoot, finally, to dethrone the US dollar. And I don't want to, this is not a shock jock thing or anything like that. It's just my opinion. And it has been for a long time, that the dollar can't be the reserve currency forever.
Yeah.
And I think, we're kind of on the way to that, whether it's 2 years away or 5 years away or 10 years away. I think it will happen. And sometime, somewhere, somehow, it has to weaken. And if it coincides with a correction in stock markets, which is probably not what people expect, I love it when things happen that aren't expected, and I'm kind of on that train, if you like.
Yeah.
I'm a bit wacky, you know that.
Yeah, well, you like to see the thing, the world through other eyes, which I think is good. I mean, you kind of need that, I think, sometimes as a trader, rather than completely going with the crowd. Because the problem with that is that you end up trading setups that are so obvious that they can just get swallowed up by the big guns. Making things really simple.
It's always been my way, always been the way I've traded, because I am a contrarian type person. I don't like to be a lemming, don't like to jump over cliffs. So
yeah,
that's just the way I am. And I think, at some stage I'm going to be fully right. And if that time comes, then I want to be in a position to take advantage of it. And I'm not saying it's now at all, but by no stretch of the imagination am I saying, look, the dollar's going to tank to half its value or anything like that. But one day I see that as a reality.
Yeah. So not to go into too much detail, but you've been reading about potentially a new currency, which is a cryptocurrency that could actually take its place.
Well, they call it distributed ledgers. And if you Google SDRs, I think that's probably, SDRs have kind of been mooted for a while. And if you have a look at SDRs and start looking at stuff around that, it's it's kind of conspiracy theory stuff at the moment. But
yeah,
that's kind of right up my alley as well.
Oh yeah, so my brother would love all that. He's still kind of got a long bias for cryptos, which he might be right, but I just it's just the way the charts are. It's just too early. You know, it's too early to surmise whether we're actually going to get any sort of bull market come back in the cryptos at this stage.
Yeah, look, if they do, they're probably in a good buying price at the moment. But
Yeah.
the kind of thing I'm talking about now is probably going to keep a lid on that. But it depends on the timing of, and if indeed it's released. You know,
Yeah.
But I think, and I've always said the big boys are not going to sit back and watch currencies die because they're too involved with it. You know, they rely on currency exchange too much.
Yeah.
So they're not going to allow Bitcoin or anything like Bitcoin to actually overtake the world as they see it and as they control it, if you like. You know, I've always said that. And they'll come up with their own form of blockchain or Bitcoin or whatever you want. It won't be done by, you know, a few individuals who dreamt up something that, whilst it's perfectly valid and viable, perhaps down the track, as it's perceived, the problem is they've got to beat too many heavyweights.
Yeah.
And that's their big issue.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, they probably pioneered the new money exchange or value exchange. I think there's definitely going to be a change. What and when is still beyond me.
Yeah. Well, that's something, as you say, for the future. FTSE 100 has just opened up, mate. I don't know whether you've got anything else that's pending at this stage.
Not to trade on the first bar, no.
Okay, so let me show you. The FTSE 100 is you know, and it's tricky, really, because the gap is probably going to be attempted to be closed. We've had such bearish price action overnight, and I wish I could have the news on in the background, but I can't find my other device at the minute. But I will look for that. But it looks like there's a long trade here up to this point. But again, as always, you know, what we've had with the FTSE is just a battling against the grain. You know, you get in long here, and even though it's the price action will probably get sucked in to close that gap, there is a strong bias for downside. You know, this market continues to move to the downside, and when we look on this on the weekly chart, we're getting so dangerously close now to. Just do that. That area's been taken, so we're really looking at. Let's see if we can do this the right way. We're really looking at probably this next area being tested potentially down here, which would coincide with a horizontal level along here. So we're probably looking at 63.84, which is still another 300 pips away from where we are now. Not the greatest bars to try and enter on, but you know, certainly when we see what's happened here with price, this area being currently taken out, doesn't bode too well for the FTSE. You know, the 68.50 area that we're currently under, we're about 200 pips under this one, so that doesn't bode too well for the FTSE. So you know, what do you do here? I don't particularly like the short, because I just think that we've come a long way fairly fast, and obviously we know this kind of thing can happen. But I'd much prefer a proper test and then see if we can go short. But as I said a minute ago, the longs are really fighting, and as we see again in the chart, you know, it tried to take off and close this gap, but it's refusing that particular area. So the FTSE is a little bit of a tricky fish to catch at the minute. You know, I am struggling. It's one of those things that if you don't get in at the time, you've missed it. You know, it's not offering many opportunities to kind of to have. There's no room for error. and that's indicative of a trend, isn't it? And that's the interesting thing. What we're after is as trend traders. I know you're slightly different view on the market, but as a trend trader, one strategy, trading the trend trading strategy, what we want is a trend, because it's just the easiest way to make money. But the caveat to that is you've got to be decisive.
And as in all trading strategies, yeah, you just said it, your timing's got to be right as well. And that's normally done by buying dips and selling rallies.
Yeah.
If you haven't got those, then you've got a bit of an issue.
Yeah, I mean, there has been one or two, but if we look at the FTSE over the last few months of this collapse, if you like, what we've had is a move to the downside, which was still questionable whether it was just a dip that people were going to buy in. But when it started to collapse here, it was more of a signal that the price action in the market was changing, and then we started to kind of float to the upside in this channel. We moved down a leg, little bit of a channel. We moved down a leg. Then we get some consolidation, and we move back to the upside, consolidation. Then we move down swiftly. Then we get a big area of consolidation, and we move down again. Then we get a really good signal. Now, this is probably the best signal of the whole move.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't really seen before, and it's kind of showing that maybe the trend is kind of getting a little bit overdone now. But this was because all of a sudden it was obvious. We actually see a break and a back test, as we say, the retracement, a move to the downside, retracement. Then we get these bars which suggest that there is some weakness here, and the price starts to come down again. Now, I'm no Elliott Wave kind of aficionado by any stretch, but what I see here is 1, 2, 3, and four kind of legs here. Now, it is the thing with Elliott Waves is that the reason I'm not very into it, if you like, is that I find it a little bit confusing about where you start measuring from and to, because you could have 1, 2. Sorry, no, this would be 1. Yes, 1 to there, 2 to there, and then maybe this is the third one now, which probably maybe looks a little bit better. Maybe I'll make that a little bit clearer. So 1 here. And my big issue with Elliott Waves is I haven't really got much desire to get good at this stuff. It's just something that I'm interested in, but not interested enough. That would be my second wave there.
Sometimes all of these things are right.
Yes.
So I guess if you can recognise them, then you can use them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is what I see. 1, 2, 3. Now, there's 5 waves. Apparently, is part of the Elliott wave. So you get the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we could be on the 5th wave now. Which, if that's the case, and as you say, it's one of those. My problem with Elliott waves is that if you bend it enough, then you can make it work. Because I could start and end a wave anywhere. I could say this is 1, and actually this is 2. And this is 3, which means that I've got an extra wave here that I don't want. If we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would be my 5 potential waves there. So that doesn't really work out either. So that's where I think it becomes a little bit too creative for me. That you can effectively bend it to work in whatever you want. There is a Fibonacci calculation on Elliott waves, and I think maybe that's where they start making it work for the Elliott waves, because it can only come back a certain amount. So maybe that's why this does end up being wave 1, because it comes back to that 38.2% retracement. So yeah, so my point is that the shorts are becoming a little bit too dangerous, I think, at this stage, because even though we have some open water here, we're not really at the end of the month. We've sort of like got that middle middle part of the month syndrome, which is, it can be notoriously difficult to trade. You know, I do find these middle 2 weeks my hardest 2 weeks. The first week and the last week, I find them relatively simple in comparison.
But also, it's not any second week of the month or third week of the month.
No.
It's 1 week before Christmas.
Yeah, and again, second and third week before the end of the year as well, which is also significant, because
absolutely
what we also can do, which is just a bit of fun really, but what people can do as well is look at a bar. Let me just do this. We can do this. So January, somewhere around about here. I'll have a look in a second. January's high is here. So that's our opening price there. And our closing price, let's say it's going to end somewhere around about here. No, I'm not sure if I can change this. This is what we've got. And there's our range. And it's an ish. You know, this is what we got, ish. So that's what we've got. You know, this is our bar of the year. This is our bar for the year, and it's a bearish bar in the same way that you can kind of like do our month over month bars. We could also do it for the year. You know, actually kind of see what we've got for the year, and see how we end up. You know, that's something that we can look at. You know, maybe we end up closing there and we get a little tail down here as well. But you can trace that right the way back, and I know people that do that, and I know people that actually trade off the back of that to kind of ascertain where they're going for the year, but where they're going for the next year. But yeah, so really my point was that while we're in this particular area here, and there's some open water below, and there's also some room to the upside to kind of try and get back into the monthly range, which I always anticipate it will try and do. Get back into this monthly range. The question is, has it already tried and failed, or do we have long enough left in the month? This is the point here. You know, that was the point. It was going to try and get back into the monthly range there. Has it already tried and failed here, or is there still time for us to get back up here? And when you sort of like, you know, figure that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of trading, there's still time. And I don't really want to go long because it's going against the overall trend here. But my natural leaning when I see price action down in this particular area is to look to see if there are long opportunities, because of what I know about how traders will, you know, how traders will work, and how price action works, how it does try and get back into an area, and also with price action, it tends to move at the end of a period more than in the middle. So just like a 5-minute bar, you're more likely to get a rush right at the last few seconds of it to complete that bar. Oftentimes, it's the same with a month, and especially as you say, when you get a month like this, which is near Christmas and the end of the year, is much more likely that we could get a rally that we you know, is pretty unforeseen towards the end of the week, and we just end up somewhere around about this price point again.
Well, we've got what, 2 days left, or maybe Monday. You can throw Monday in, I suppose. If there's to be a Santa rally, it has to happen in that time frame.
Well, the Santa rally's not on the cards at all now. Whether we get any sort of other type of rally is more the question. You know, do we get some sort of relief? You know, because the Santa rally should have begun. And as you say, we've got 2 days left, and for a Santa rally to start, he's got to take out this area and go, which I think is incredibly unlikely. But you know, now maybe this ends up as some sort of some sort of shooting star down here, some sort of hammer. Who knows? So with that in mind, maybe the market is going to attempt to create some sort of morning star. But again, that might be based on tomorrow. And then the most obvious news and data we have is the news from the Fed. So that could be our driver. As you say, what if they? I read yesterday a 90% chance of raising interest rates.
It's gone up again. Okay.
It's gone up again. Yeah, it's gone up again. But I keep sort of like reading other opinions on that as well.
Well, only time will tell, of course. It doesn't matter what we speculate. It's a matter for them, and they'll decide what they want to decide.
Yeah.
The thing is, I guess, that the market has been pricing it in for such a long time that I wouldn't expect there to be too much movement if they do go, but there'll be a hell of a movement if they don't.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of why I'm happy to be long against the dollar at the moment. I don't think there's too much fear to the downside.
You don't think there's too much what to the down?
I don't think there's too much fear to the downside for me.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think they can do or say anything that the market hasn't already looked at, and the market's looked at an interest rate rise overnight, and the market's also looked at no more perhaps in 2019 for the whole year. So unless they then turn around and say, okay, we are going this month and we think we're going to go in March again, then the market will like that and the dollar should rally. But I can't see them saying that. But you never know. They are the bosses, not us.
Absolutely, mate. Well, we've got a FTSE 100. God, the setup is awful, but it is going to attempt to get this gap, and I suspect we probably are looking for that pound data as well before before we see any true direction on the FTSE 100, whether it can get back up. When we got pivots here as well, which I know will interest you. So let me bring this onto a half-hour chart here. We got pivots in this area as well. So I think we do probably try and drag up into this area. And then see what happens from there on in. But at this stage, that pivot looks like the most obvious place to be looking for a short, doesn't it?
If you're that way inclined, yeah, absolutely. We're above the daily pivots.
I'm talking about the FTSE here, mate, being below the daily pivot.
Really? You've got a different daily pivot than me then?
Are you on the FTSE 100?
Yeah.
Okay, you must be on FTSE cash.
I'm on a 4-hour chart. Oh,
okay. Yeah, okay. Yes. Well, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a break and retest of the daily pivot. So perhaps there is a case for a weekly pivot test.
Weekly pivot test. You got a weekly pivot in the same place probably that the daily pivot exists on the futures.
I've got the weekly pivot at, let me see.
Oh, the price will be different. The only way to really know whether they exist in the same place is with a price action, normally. If you see what I'm saying, the actual the pattern.
Yep.
Because futures are currently at 66.50.
The weekly pivot is coinciding with. What chart are you on? Can you go to the 4-hour chart?
There's a huge disparity actually between the on the cash or the futures.
On the cash.
On the cash is. There's our 4-hour there.
Yeah, so that to me looks a little bit more compelling than did yours. If you take the, I'd call it a hammer. Back on, no, way back. Go right across to the bottom. The next,
this one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I haven't really got anything to back that up except the fact that we've got a double bottom sitting there, I suppose.
You see, we've got a very, very different looking market, haven't we? When we consider the two charts here, really, this is that low. on the 5th of December,
Mm-hmm.
or the 6th of December, and this price is existing under it, where this price is above it. So that's a confusing picture. And I have to say, and the reason I bring this up is that this is very rare. That's something that I've not seen happen before. What has basically happened, mind you, you see what would normally happen here is this would have gapped up by the time that the market is opened to give us the same picture.
Yep.
But what's happened is that the futures have been must have been following the Asian session overnight now, which I'm going to have a look at. Which is why I don't tend to check the cash as much as as keeping my eye on the futures. I would check the cash before I took a trade, obviously, but I don't have an eye on it. This is the Hong Kong 50, which wasn't that bad. The Japanese market was pretty bearish overnight. Yeah, very interesting. I mean, that in itself kind of puts me off looking for too much here. Now, the market is in oversold territory now, so if it's going to be starting to turn, it'll be somewhere in this area. If I bring in the cash has actually started to give very weak buy signals in this area, which I can show you, but they are very, very weak and very, very tenuous buy signals down here. So I think we got a little bit of time to wait until this picture really clears out. But as I say, you know, do we really want to be going against the grain?
I
Now,
don't, but with the pound in particular.
yeah, I was thinking with the FTSE, you know, the FTSE is so weak. Do you know the other one we were talking about yesterday was the, or I was talking about yesterday was the Swissy Sing. Well, interesting actually. I mean, you know, I didn't trade it because it's just not my currency pair. But it was an interesting. It turned out to be a pretty interesting looking price action, which I noted, because what we had with this Swissy Sing was a potential for this to be a higher high and a higher low, and I was looking for some upside, but the problem with it was this weekly bar. Now, when I looked at this, that suggested to me that the price that we would attempt to try and get to is that point there, but there was always going to be a problem in this area. Always going to be, you know, with these highs here. There was, and this is a weekly chart that we're on right now. There was always going to be a problem in this area here. Now, the setup was on the 4 hour, and the 4 hour was giving us. Let me see. I can get this in. The 4 hour was giving us was it the 4 hour? Was it the hourly? Might be the hourly actually. Yeah, no, it was. It was the hourly, wasn't it? We were looking at. It was. Was it the Swissy Sing? Or was it the CAD Sing?
Yeah, no, it was Swissy Sing. Yep.
What was it? What I was looking at with this? I can't remember what my setup on this was. Let me just make sure my timing is right here. 18th. Yeah. Sorry, that is right. Yeah. So the 4 hour was our setup, and it was as it came up here and came back. So we'd broken through this particular level on the 4 hour here. So that was why I was looking at this for a long. And then as this one was coming back here, there was also a 15-minute setup. Whoops, wrong chart. There's also a 15-minute setup on. At this point here, and a really good one. You know, we had sort of effectively exactly the same setup on the 15 as we had on the 4 hour. So a break and a back test, really nice entry bar there to look for upside. But as it turned out, the trade wouldn't have been too hot because you know you'd probably be waiting for this bar here. And when I measure the potential entry. Maybe we enter at the top of the bar. We have stops at the lows around about 19. The price action only went to 19. So if we were looking at, and I definitely wouldn't have taken profit there, even though there was a little, this is only a 15-minute area of resistance. There's no way I would have taken profit at that particular point. So maybe the second time round, possibly I would have done. But the point really was the best it offered was a 1-to-1. So at this time, it would have taken us out anyway. So the trade wouldn't have made profit and it wouldn't have made a loss. It would have been an absolutely, even money break. So, it kind of, I did do some analysis on this, and I did a little bit of thinking on it. And all I came up with two things. Firstly, it's better to possibly avoid trading a market that I don't trade very often. And secondly, my other thing was, when you see a weekly bar like this, you have to kind of respect it, even though the dailies actually it's a little bit scruffy, but the dailies looked pretty good. Like maybe an inverted head and shoulders, maybe even an inverted diamond here. Even though the dailies look good, the only way to trade this is next week. If this bar doesn't collapse, if this doesn't actually start a move to the downside, and when we get a hold, then that would be a bit more bullish. But to actually trade it this week would probably be a little bit dangerous. So that was really what I got from it. It was more of a kind of a learning curve than anything else. It was one of those that I don't think was a true profitably tradable opportunity. I think it was just one of those that is worth watching and seeing. But I think rather than sort of coming away and thinking I shouldn't trade these, it's more I think it's more of a lesson of making sure that your technicals have your back in every situation, in every sense of it. And it didn't at this particular point with a weekly.
And as you say, that's potentially due in part to it's a cross that you don't know.
And yes. Yeah.
That can be very, very tricky, because the same method does not necessarily work on everything. That's a fact.
Yeah.
In particular, if you're looking at crosses that tend to trend when they go, and rather than range when they range, etc., and crosses that are susceptible to volatility around different scenarios, like it may be commodities, it may be finances, it may be all sorts of things that drive different currencies. It may be carry trades. There's a whole lot of stuff that comes into to make a one pair different to another in
Absolutely.
terms of the way
really good point.
They react.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily going to be that my method, your method, whoever's method of trading works on every single pair, because I don't think that it can.
And that's a really good point, isn't it? I mean, I kind of have a bit of a theory on the FTSE, and the thing is, the more I trade the FTSE, the more strategies actually crop up. You could trade the FTSE in a few different ways, and make money on it. There's the intraday trading. There's the high probability entry, and there's the low probability, high reward entry on the FTSE. And I look at this template, if you like, on other markets, and even though I can make them work, the problem is the management of them. If you're trading one market and you're looking at potentially 3, 4, 5 different strategies, it's very, very difficult then to put those 5 templates onto multiple markets, because as you say, they're kind of like they move in a different way, and if you don't know them that well, certainly some of them, not all of them, the swing trading strategies I think are a lot easier to handle with that kind of thing, which is probably why that you're finding the 4-hour so generous at this moment in time.
Yep.
But you imagine putting the slingshot onto the Swissy Sing, for example. The doubt. I mean, you'd get doubts, wouldn't you, if it didn't work out? enough. If you weren't able to watch it consistently over a 3-month period, you'd kind of get doubts on whether if the price starts to come against you, whether it would actually work on that strategy. Just after a couple of trades.
Most definitely, I would. Yeah,
yeah,
I wouldn't have any confidence in it at all.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, that, but the thing we need to get to the bottom of anyway, mate, is this hedging. That's what I want to get into.
Okay. Look, it's perfectly. Oh, the Aussie's going to take off without me. I don't want that to happen.
Okay, do you want to focus? You got bars coming up, half-hour bars. Let's have a look around the grounds on the slingshot.
Actually, we've got new bound. Oh, all right. Let's take a look. Old pinch screen. The one fear it's not a fear, it's a trepidation, if you like, that I have is that I'm going to miss this Aussie, because I think if it goes, it's going to go a heck of a long way, and it's right there again. I need it down here, Ash.
Right.
Get it down here, if you don't mind. And
I'll make
if that
a call.
happens, yeah, please do. If I can get it down here, then I'm a happy chappy, and I can get long, but I can't trade long from here. It's just not possible. As I said, this was the one down here that I needed to get in on, and unfortunately, well, I'm sound asleep at that time of day, so you just can't be awake all the time, and that's the issue there. The Euros stopped again, just short of TP2 here. That's why I hate trading with the trade manager.
Would you not considering taking the profit manually there? It's so close,
absolutely.
Isn't
it? Yeah, it's 3 pips away, and that's absolutely what I'm thinking of doing, as I was here, and I missed it again by a pip or something. So definitely taking it manually upsets my settings. That's the only thing that really annoys me as well.
I'm just going to check this euro, because what we want to see on this euro is what's it look like on a 5. Yeah, you see that I've got divergence on the 5, which suggests that we probably are heading for a bit of weakness here. We got a really nice last bar, but that could be an exhaustion bar on the 5-minute chart. I don't know if you want to have a look at my charts, or you just want to bring that up yourself. But
show me.
Okay, so I've got a potential for an exhaustion bar here. And I'll show you what I've got as well on the. Now, it doesn't mean that that it stops absolutely here, but it just suggests at this stage that the momentum to the upside is weakening. Now, the signal usually would be for that to happen 3 times. But if this starts to tuck under this particular line here, that's going to suggest that we're probably going to ease down. So this exhaustion bar is maybe as high as we get. So if you're only 3 pips away, my personal stance on this would be to take the profit.
Yep. Well, I was going to do it last time. Now, of course, it's starting to fall away. I'm not going to do that. I'll wait and see how we go. If we get back near it, then I'll take it. But at this point in time, I'm not going to bail out on a falling 30-minute candle. Doesn't sit well with me. Doesn't bode well with me.
Could you not just move your take profit level to these highs here?
Look, I can. There's many things I can do, but I'm okay.
Okay.
I'll just leave it there for now. I mean, it's not like I need to bail out here.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah. Okay. So anything else on our 30s then?
Cables come back towards the daily pivot again. Look, that's probably preempting the news, I would think. Aussie starting to come back off. That's good. We need to get that down there. This is an interesting one. This Aussie yen's interesting. This might be my way in, actually, because I'm getting lots of little signals here to suggest that there's an acceleration level. And if this bar here closes anywhere, really, let me see. Even up to down here. If this current bar closes down there, I would get interested in trading along there. So we'll keep our eye on that one. There was probably already an opportunity in this one, but it's way, way small bar. So I'll keep my eye on that one, Aussie yen. As I say, that may be my way in. Been trying to pick
I've
out
got
euros.
I've got sell signals here on the pound.
Yeah, look, that doesn't surprise me at all. Not one little bit.
God, that's a tempting trade, you know, because of the news.
Show me. What do you got?
So, I mean, again, they're kind of weak, but if I consider my my indicators here, same sort of thing. You know, if I start with the hourly is doing the same thing. Now, this does have our 3 touches. So we got 3 touch RSI, which is kind of you know, starting to weaken at this particular point. And then when we bring, and as I say, you know, these are weak sell signals, but because of what we've got coming out, this could actually be a decent play to look for a short. Decent place to look for a short. Now we do have this resistance point here, so we got some resistance here. We got some weakness potentially happening here on the hourly, which is showing that you know, even between this point and this point, we got the divergence of the similar high, but we've also potentially got a lower high kicking in, and we've got a 5-minute chart which is suggesting that very similar to the euro, that this could be now breaking down from the trend to the upside. So this is a sell signal. As I say, it's kind of weak, it's a bit tenuous, but I think because of what's at play with the CPI, it wouldn't be the worst trade, and I guess maybe the safest play would be to enter at these lows with a stop at the highs, because then you won't, you know, there won't be any triggering in unless price breaks this particular point. And let me just see what that looks like on an hourly. That would also get us under that daily pivot. So I think taking under, I mean, there's kind of a lot here. So maybe even just making sure it clears that trend line as well. But I think taking out this trend line, so an entry at one spot 26.39, maybe one spot 26.40. Looks like a pretty good entry to me. And probably stops might be better to keep well out of the way up here. That would leave enough room. Yeah, that would leave enough room to kind of get to our first level of support down there.
Yep. Yeah, look, as I say, I can see the whole world wanting to get short the pound, and I'm, up until yesterday, one of them. But I've spent an hour on that little bit of research today, and I've just got to give it a chance.
Yeah,
I think prove me correct, and
yeah,
I'm okay with that. I haven't got a house on it or anything like that. It's just a small opportunistic trade, I think, and I'm not going to change my mind on that. I'll just
no, I think that's fair, mate. And to be honest, the only reason I wouldn't put an order in here is that it's just some vague kind of idea of a way to trade this news rather than a well worked through strategy. So I'm not going to put this in on a kind of like, you know, grey and very light assumption of what the charts are telling me, and it's only the indicators. Price action isn't really telling me that. It's only the because I don't have a trend really starting on the hourly. If anything, this is a possibly a little higher low here. So it's a difficult one to really look at, and I will look at this on some longer term time frames. But the 4 hour doesn't look great either. Actually, the 4 hour looks also kind of weak when we look at these bars here. And again, I'm gonna bring the RSI back in here and see what that is suggesting a low point. Well, it's not a safe entry, but it's certainly a not a high probability entry, I should say, but it's certainly a decent risk to reward entry. Let's watch this one and see how this one turns out. That's another hour away anyway, isn't it, before we got that CPI?
Yeah, well, now 51 minutes, and unfortunately, we won't be in the show when that happens. But I would like to. I'll certainly be around it so I can manage it if needs be. But pardon me, I think that will certainly tell the tale of the tape for me today. Whether that goes into a very nice situation, give me a little Christmas present, early Christmas present or not, we will see. I'm not really looking at anything else. Still the majors, mate. I'm Aussie Yen's got me a little bit interested now.
Right,
With this,
I've given you the charts back, so let's have a look at that.
okay, that's getting me interested now with this bar.
Yeah.
So I like that we've had a few warnings here that this can go to the high side.
Just a quick question. From what we've seen with the pound, is there any bars that you have that could enter you in the opposite direction from this point or not?
Short the pound, you mean?
Yeah. Is there anything that sort of like, from slingshot perspective, look like it could be a short?
Yeah. Look, I've got my stops here, right?
Yeah.
So about the midpoint is we're around about here somewhere. And I do think if the daily pivot goes, in particular because we've had this bar here suggesting that this is a buy, if that goes, then that takes that signal out for me. So probably a close below the daily pivot gets me to a point where, okay, it's now time to consider that I'm wrong. And that would mean about, I'd probably let it go to, this level here. That's about half my risk there, right?
Yeah.
That level. So I think I'd be happy to put a sell order in there at half my risk.
Yeah.
Which would mean that I've got bugger all, really to lose at that point in time.
Yeah.
And if it does go south with momentum and the number is bad, then it's going to finish up down here. And I can probably make a profit out of that. So, yeah, I think that's probably the point, mate. I'll put it on the chart, actually.
Okay.
That level there.
I just wondered if there's any hedging going on that we could see.
Definitely. And that's it. But the news is going to complicate that.
Yeah.
It could be dangerous. So, yeah, I'll have to see what's happening in about an hour's time. But if we were not news affected, actually, no, I'll take that back. I think the news can only help this. If it is going the wrong way, I think the news will force it the wrong way even further.
Yeah.
So, I'd be even happy to place that trade now, really.
Yeah.
In fact, I won't because I've actually got two positions long the pound at the moment. So I'll hang on to that at the moment and see if I can see a signal that would suggest that we're going to here. And if I do, then I'll place the order.
Okay, mate.
How's my euro going? We're back up there. Ash, trying. I think we can now. We're 3 pips away. We're 2 pips
come
away.
on, yeah.
I think I can now put that at TP1. Sorry, TP2. 45. I've got it. If I put it at 41, I'd be okay with that being a miss by 4 pips. So if I modify that now, oops, that's 4. Don't want to do that. 41, modify. Okay, there we go.
Well done, mate. I think that's wise.
Yeah, look, it's only 4 pips off the target, so yeah, I agree.
I think that's wise, and it's had a couple of bites of that, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's more money in the bank. It's all good.
I like that trade. I'm really tempted about this pound. I don't know. I should. Yeah, go on, mate.
Go short. No, you're right.
You carry on, and I'm just going to see whether I can justify a short in the pound.
Well, the euro is now open, and it doesn't matter what happens now. My stop is exactly where it was and is underneath. Where was it? Come on, change. My stop's still in its original position, which is under here. I'm not going to change that, and I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to leave this open, certainly through the next two news announcements, which will be the FOMC statement, and the pound news, I suppose, may affect this. But I'm going to leave it open until here. I'll just trail it up to here if I can, because I've now taken 2/3 off the table, and that's all good. So happy days. Turned out quite good. If the pound can go with it, and the Aussie can set up, I could have a good week. We'll see.
Well, the euro surely has given you a good week already.
Yeah, even if I lost on the pound, I can't lose. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, which is always nice going into Christmas.
Absolutely. I don't see anything else I need to do at this point. I'll just concentrate on those three. I will have a look at Aussie yen though. This may be my way into the Aussie, as I said before. If I do get that bear bar that probably comes down here somewhere, I'd like to see that. I will place a long above that. So that's about where I'm at, mate.
Well, okay. So pound Aussie yen. You were thinking a possible trade on that one as well.
Yep, above this bar here.
Above that bar there.
Has to be the right bar. It's only about 7 odd pips at the moment.
Yep.
I think. Yeah, I'd like to see that a bit bigger. I'd like to see it hit some form of support here. So that level would be good. That level would be okay. I need to get it down there, and I need it to be a decisive bear bar. If it is, then that will trigger that will force me to place that long. We shall see. It's not there yet. The few things I do like about this: double bottom here, big reversal bar here, higher low here. Yeah, I like it. I like this. This is good. So, well, I'll be watching that bar closely.
Okay, that sounds good.
Euro we know about, Aussie we know about, pound we know about. Yeah, I'm just about good to go, mate.
Great. Well, I don't really have too much to add. The pound is a little bit of a tricky one.
You going to place it or not?
Well, do you know my problem is because I see enough to get me in here on the pound. I'm going to come back to it again. I see enough to get me in here, but my problem is timing. And when I say I see enough, I really see enough on the the hourly has suggested some downside. This 5-minute chart is just kind of giving me an indicator for some downside, but it's a this is what we got with the 5-minute chart, a little bit of a dip down, and that is suggesting that we could get lower here, but this area of support is a bit problematic. It's not a very it's not a great entry because the chart's a mess here. It hasn't really given me that lower high or anything on the 5-minute chart. Even this point doesn't really give me an area of a horizontal area really. This is the horizontal area, and we're still kind of surviving above that. So if it comes down and takes out the pivot, then it's a bit of a different picture. Whether that's going to happen before news is maybe a little bit questionable.
And I agree with that. If it does take that pivot out, it is a different picture.
Yeah. So maybe just in the way of confidence, then that has to happen, because the 15-minute chart is the other one of interest. While it's kind of like surviving above this point here, that is a little area of support, and it could spring forward here, and it could spring forward and get right back up to these highs. That the RSI on the 15 is a bit of a sloppy mess. So very difficult. And and the other one actually is the daily. The daily is a very interesting chart too, because the daily does have, as I said, that horizontal level of resistance. But again, when I come back to my RSI, the RSI is just starting to suggest that the daily chart and the daily bar that we're currently on is poked his head above that momentum area, which could start to give us a little bit of upside if the day closes like that. Couple that with what you were saying about that CPI, that potential CPI, and we don't really have anything too safe to get in. So I'm not too keen. I think the charts are just a little bit confused, and actually, as the 15-minute continues, maybe the picture actually does start to show that we could be heading for some upside on the 15, over 15. You know, so I think we just got to wait it out and see if there's anything that becomes a little bit clearer. But I have to say, at this stage, nothing is there, and from what I've seen on the FTSE specifically, if you watch one chart for the whole day, the probability of getting a high probability trade is always there. There's always something. There's always something that is really clean and really clear, and as yet that hasn't really shown itself. So I think we just got to wait this one out and see what we got. With a FTSE, we are looking for shorts really, but I just want it to be a little bit higher and see if those shorts show themselves. Maybe FOMC tomorrow could change the picture. You know, maybe after the pound data has been released, maybe we then start to see some of the traders come in and strengthen the dollar off the back of the potential FOMC rate hike. Because why is the dollar? This is the thing. Why is the dollar weak? If there's a 90% chance, supposedly, that we get a higher price in the dollar, why is the dollar weak? It doesn't really make too much sense here.
At the moment, in fundamental terms,
yeah.
How strong do you think Trumpy is at the moment? You know, it's
Well, you're right, and it always depends on what is the focus. You know, what are people focusing on? And if they are focused on the FOMC, which is the next thing up, which I suspect they would be, then they should be, yeah. Then it doesn't really make too much sense. But I suppose there are bigger things at play, and because of that, it does make this market a little bit trickier. But I'm going to watch this pound and see how that ends up. And remember all that I've seen. You see, this will change the picture as well. If the 15 starts to close down here, that's going to start changing the picture. So I kind of like the pound for a short. I'm just gonna wait for a little bit more detail on this one.
All right, mate. I think, as you say, it's going to be about the next, where are we? 38 minutes. I think we'll know more in 38 minutes.
Absolutely. Okay, mate. Well, we got. Are you in later on again?
No, mate. Wednesday. That's my evening off.
So evening off. Okay. All right. Well, I'll be in the later show. So let's pack up as we wait on some of these. The pound, just to recap, needs for me to be under this daily pivot and this trend line, and then it's worth taking. And I don't think you need much more of a setup than just to take the trade down there. And I guess targets, just to quickly talk about targets. Most obvious one is going to be this one, would be with a first point of call. So 1.75 would be a first target there. 1.2540, I should say. So that's probably around about it for me, mate.
All right, mate. Me too. Let's pack it up, and we'll do it all again tomorrow.
Great stuff. Yes, tomorrow is Wednesday, isn't it?
No.
Tomorrow's Thursday. Do you know what? I've got an appointment, a hospital appointment for my daughter tomorrow.
That's all right. I'll be here.
Okay, I might try and take my laptop to the hospital with me and see if I can hop on with you. So I'll see what I can do about that, mate. It's for her feet. She was born with talipes, so she has to have these checkups, and she's having a checkup tomorrow around about 9 o'clock. So
Far more important than sitting next to me, I can assure you.
Never. All right, buddy. Well, have a great morning. Sorry, great afternoon, and I will see you for sure next Monday.
All right, mate. Happy days.
All right, great stuff. Thanks, mate. See you later. See you later, guys. Oh, Pedro, sorry. Are you still there, Jeff?
Yes, I'm here, mate.
Okay, sorry, Pedro. I'll just see Pedro. Interesting. I think Kiwi CAD is begging to come down on all time frames. I might have to quickly check that if you're okay. You can head off if you want. But I've just seen a question, just a thing from Pedro there. Kiwi CAD.
All right, mate. I will head off. Not in my ballpark, that one. So
yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead. All right, let's analyze this a bit. Right, Kiwi CAD coming down on all time frames. So no, I do see the weakness there. I do see the weakness here. Do you know what though? A break above here is going to be pretty bullish. I was looking at the Kiwi dollar actually earlier today, but let's have a look at this Kiwi CAD in more detail. I do see that. I do see that. Okay, but one thing with this Kiwi CAD, which would be slightly concerning, is I see that there is some potential resistance, and the resistance may be just a little bit higher, which could lead us into here. I think you're absolutely right about there being some possible resistance here, but we may be early. I mean, it's a good trade actually. It's a good trade, and I do like this. I think if we're going to enter, I like the entry. But I think maybe stops at this high would be kind of wise, which leads us because there's a lot of room to the downside. Let me just check this on the pivots as well. Okay, now if that's, I've got to find the chart which suggests downside and maybe the daily, which leads us to, yeah, no, I like it, mate. I do like it actually. Looking at this does look good. Divergence on the 1 hour. Yep, I see that as well, and I like that. Yeah, that's a really good trade. Really good trade. I think we could wait for a negative looking bar here. You definitely want to see. That looks good. That looks really good. Okay, so the way that I would play this is I make you absolutely right, but the way that I'd want to play this is at least a little 5-minute trend. So if this starts to take out this area, which gives you plenty of time with a 5-minute, if it starts to take out this area and backtest there, then I'd want to enter this. But I think that's a great trade. Cool, you're spotting some beauties, mate. I am going to just double check that. Yeah, the daily looks good as well, doesn't it? Yeah, what do you reckon? I think waiting for a 5-minute break there would be the one. Now, if you've got any other thoughts, that's fine. But you know, you're going to get pretty much the same price, and at least you'll get a little bit of price action in your favor. So let me know. Do you like that? Like that idea. And I'd wait for a break and a back test. Wait for a nice clean entry. Break here, back test, and I think you're in. You may well have gone. Okay. Hopefully that answered the question, but sorry I missed it earlier on. Okay. See you soon, guys. I'll see you later on. We'll check this out in the evening show.